this evening? Doug?
I think...
Or just specific to the items?
Just for items. I see quite a few people on Zoom. I don't know if anybody on Zoom is here to appear for something not on the agenda.
Is anyone on Zoom here to appear for something that's not on the agenda this evening?
No.
All right. Okay. Unfinished business. A, public hearing on request by TG Monona LLC for consideration of a certified survey map and street vacation of Engle Street for the purpose of constructing a new golf entertainment venue and future development opportunities at approximately 1709 to 1717 West Broadway. Case number 2021-2024. Hi there.
Hi,
Hi. If you would like to state your name and start with that and your
Sure.
address.
Kevin Pape. I'm with Beer Baker Associates.
Okay.
Representing the developer on the property.
Okay.
Proposing a, do you want me to go into?
Yes,
specifics?
please.
Okay. It's a proposal of a 4-lot CSM. One of the lots is for a golf entertainment venue. That's lot 1. Lot 2 is for future development. Lots 3 and 4 is just some lot line adjustments and will likely remain pretty much as is. Lot 1 is proposed to get access off of Gisholt Drive and also a secondary access by easement across Lot 3 out to West Broadway. A couple items that have come up is an existing emergency access easement for the school, which is currently being resolved between the school and the developer to rework that easement. It currently comes off of Gisholt and will be reworked to come off of West Broadway Street.
Okay. All right. Doug?
Thank you. I do have one item that was submitted. This was specifically related more to the zoning permit item. This was shared with Plan Commission members earlier today. This is from both the Monona resident and business owner, Paula Doherty. I did have a chance to speak with her. Unfortunately, when I was out at the last meeting with COVID, this was not shared with the commission, and I did have a chance to speak with her since, and she asked that this be shared with the commission, recognizing this is an adjacent request sort of with, to the similar item. A lot of this related to sort of the lighting, noise, and as well as sort of the visibility of the nets, but also as a business owner there at the Southtown office suites. She had some concerns about the loss of affordable small space, and so I did have a chance to sort of speak about that, spoke about some other locations and kind of a little bit more adjacent to this item, but sort of the needs of small businesses within the city and how we can continue to accommodate them. So again, a little tangential, and there was also an item here. You may remember Ms. Doherty came through for a zoning permit. Her occupation is as a massage therapist. That use is not allowed as a home occupation within the city, which would be a use, of course, where you can work out of your home with minimal visual impact. And so that's something else that she requested we consider to be updated within the ordinance to reflect post-pandemic work practices. So again, it was a much longer message. I did share that with the commission and wanted that to be included on the record as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just to double check, is anyone on Zoom here to speak about the topic that we're discussing right now for TG Monona and Topgolf?
Yes, this is Dr. Henderson. I'm calling, I wanted to speak on 1945 to 55 West Broadway, and I wanted to see how the proposal will alter either our access or our property in any way.
So what was that address again?
1945 to 1955 West Broadway.
And that's directly across the street, right, in Madison? No, nope, that's not. So which, Doug, do you know?
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Henderson, but I believe they are the two parcels sort of that are not included within this, within the CSM, lots 35 and 36, closest to West Broadway.
Gotcha.
Is that correct?
I'm not sure if those lots are not included. What, the proposal that occurred last year, did include all of this, our properties in it also, although we opposed.
No, right? That's not included.
Could the applicant
Yep.
potentially address that specifically? These are the two, as I believe it's the frontage road, sort of closest, and that would be at the kind of northwest extent. I believe it's outside of the CSM, but could you address that, please?
Correct. If we're referring to the two lots, 35 and 36, they are not included in this project.
Thank you.
Okay.
And they do not affect, this doesn't affect the access.
It should not affect, it does not affect their access in any way.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Dr. Henderson, does that answer your question?
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to B, consideration of action on request by TG Monona LLC for consideration of a certified survey map and street vacation of Engle Street for the purpose of constructing a new golf entertainment venue and future development opportunities at approximately 1709 and 1717 West Broadway. Case number 20021-2024. Doug?
Thank you. So as mentioned, a 4-lot certified survey map is the request here. Included within that is the 404 linear foot portion of Engle Street. The request there is for that to be vacated by City Council resolution. I am working with the City Attorney on that based on the outcome of this decision and subsequently City Council. As mentioned, the majority of this is to accommodate the future Topgolf use in the proposed Lot 1 at the southwest corner. Proposed Lot 2 would also be available for future redevelopment. And then Lot 3 and 4 specifically relate to WPS, sort of realignment of those elements, very little else. The access to streets is maintained both off of Gisholt as well as West Broadway. The lot dimensions appear appropriate, certainly developable based on the total size. I believe the smallest is still over 5 acres in size. As mentioned, the emergency access easement agreement is being worked out right now with sort of a reroute there, and that is something that is recommended as a condition of potential recommendation to City Council. This did go through Public Works Committee at their meeting on August 7th and unanimously received recommendation for approval. And Strand Associates have taken a look at this. As we do, we have professional surveyor, look at this specifically. Their review letter is included within the packet and recommended as a condition as well. With that, staff recommends Plan Commission recommendation to Council to approve the 4-lot certified survey.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. We'll open up to commission members. Chris, do you have anything from last meeting?
Yeah, the one thing, we're vacating Engle. Don't we have public utilities under Engle?
Yes.
I don't see a public utility easement on the CSM.
There will be something need to be done there, right? So there'll be some sort of easement agreement. I don't know.
I suspect it'll be a public easement for a public utility easement if they're public utilities.
Correct.
Or the developer will have to take them over as private utilities.
The intent, I believe, is to remain public with those and provide an easement.
Okay, then I'd say that's one thing missing that needs to be on here.
Would you prefer to see it directly on the CSM or
Well,
a separate easement agreement?
I think it should be on the CSM, because as you know, when you go search records, where is the first place you go? You've done it your whole career.
Well,
Register of deeds, look up
Yes.
the CSM, right?
You pull the CSM up.
So I think we at least need to have a condition that talks about a public utility easement or as determined appropriate we can leave with staff. That include the city engineer, the council. Public Works should be talking about this. If we have utilities, they have to be in an easement. We have to have a public easement for them, and it has to be big enough that they feel comfortable getting in there and working on them if they stay public.
I thought Public Works had mentioned it and brought it up,
But they forgot to get something in
maybe it's
writing.
not
Yeah.
in there,
Yeah, there needs to be something on that.
It's kind of important to have it written. So that's one thing I'd suggest we had a condition that there's something done with the easement agreement for the public utilities. If you're asking me, I'd put it right on the CSM. Staff may determine something else.
Okay. Susan?
Well, similar question where I noticed on the recommendations that the emergency access routes will be worked out prior to the recording of the CSM, but there was also a recommendation from Strand that be included in the CSM. Is that what that recommendation means, or do we have to be more specific? Because that makes sense to me too, for the same reason that it should be.
Yes, I would say it should be resolved prior to the recording, so ideally.
And then
I
it will
think-
be on the CSM.
Yes.
Okay, that was my only question, but otherwise, yeah, that's fine.
Rob?
Nothing to add outside of what's been said.
Okay. Before I forget, because Corrine is on Zoom. Corrine, do you have anything?
We can't hear you.
I think you're still on mute.
You came off of mute, but we couldn't hear you.
There you go. Still can't hear you.
Come back to me.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
We got you now.
Okay. All for me to say I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
John?
The only thing I would say is I would agree that I would prefer to see it on the CSM.
Okay, thanks.
Brandon?
Yeah, I echo the same. No other comment.
Okay, so it looks like that everyone would like to see that, the commission would like to see that on the CSM, and at this point, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval, conditions 1 through 5 as recommended by staff. Condition 6, that there's a public utility easement shown on the CSM. That Plan Commission recommends is on the CSM with final determination by the City Council. How's that?
Second?
Yep.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion
Aye.
passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That brings us to C, public hearing on requests by Alana's Auto Sale for approval of a zoning permit for a new use at 5734 Monona Drive, case number 20202024. And do we have the applicant online or here?
I do not see the applicant in the room. I have sent an email, just following up. I was expecting them to be here. Apologies for that. I don't know, is the applicant for this item on Zoom this evening?
Don't think so. All right. And do we have any registered applicants to speak on this subject?
We do, yes. There were a few contact forms that were shared earlier this
Chris.
afternoon.
Just one thing, it might be helpful since the people have come to talk about it, and there's people online to talk about it, since the applicant's not here, perhaps staff could just give a brief overview of what's being proposed, so that they have an idea when
Absolutely.
they're talking about it. It's not normal, but since the applicant's not here, it'd be nice to give them the benefit of an overview.
Sure.
Thank you, Chris. So the request this evening is for a zoning permit. The application is for a new retail motor vehicle dealership at the former Marley Yoga Center building at 5734 Monona Drive. The request here is for used car sales. There would be 4 employees. There would be 18 designated stalls for car sales, 5 for customers, 4 for employees. Changes have been made since the pre-hearing that took place in July of this year. That includes landscaping, lighting improvements, as well as some more discussion of the building improvements, specifically to the exterior. The trash enclosure in the rear will be updated with new doors and locks. One point to also point out as well here is that the drive-through from the previous use, two goes previous, is not to be used. The operating hours would be Monday to Saturday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And again, the 4 employees, full-time employees expected. And the applicant has been coordinating with the landlord since the pre-hearing has taken place, with some more clarity in terms of the expectations for maintenance, as well as some of the improvements that would take place. And that, some of those details are included in the updated application materials. Thank you.
All right. And then, so with that said, we have some online communication. You want to go through that first?
Yes, absolutely. So we had a few of these come through over the weekend and early this morning. A couple more came in later today that I did not get a chance to share with the commission, but I will share here as well. So the first one from, and I know we have a couple of folks here to speak as well.
There we go.
The first is from Veronica Wilsey. on Pheasant Hill Road and looking to register opposition to the request here. Concern about proximity to Woodland Park with regard to pollution, lack of lighting and landscaping, and echoes the police chief's concerns about deliveries, specifically by the semi-trailer. The request here is for something that would be more walkable, that the local residents need frequently, and they suggested that there may be a more suitable site elsewhere, potentially on Broadway, for example. The next item, or the next comment, was from Lindsay Wood Davis, and she located on Roygan Terrace, expressing very strong opposition for this item. Specifically, the location next to the park is of challenge, and the work that John and Peggy Traver spent fighting and working for that space. The historic land, they suggested that this would not be the appropriate adjacent business to that. Not opposed to used car sales, but suggested that this is not the place for those.
Sweetheart, I'm so sorry. Harmony, can you grab me some napkins, please? I'm sorry.
Could you mute, someone on Zoom needs to mute their microphone. Thank you. Go ahead, Doug.
Thanks. The next one was from Tim Egan, who is the president of the Glendale Neighborhood Association, the Madison neighborhood closest to the parcel here, I believe just behind that off of the drive. The Neighborhood Association Board learned of the zoning request and would like to register opposition due to potential impacts on traffic and safety on the drive, as well as the possible impacts to Woodland Park and the nearby Aldo Leopold and Edna Taylor as well. General aesthetic concerns with the used car lots, and suggested that the commission, and hoped that the commission would use the parcel for a different use. Another was from Caitlin, who is a Monona resident and wanted to oppose the request. Doesn't see this as in the best interest of the city or consistent with the big picture plan for the city. Concerned about conflicting issues in sustainability, considering the plants, animals, and bugs who find refuge at Woodland Park, and suggested that there would be a more desirable and alternative use for the visible site for the city. And I know we have a few people in person who registered to speak this evening. Douglas Davis of 305 Crestview Drive.
Yep, come on up. Yep. Thank you.
Do I need to be closer? Is that okay? It's good? Okay.
Yep.
I just learned about this today, so I threw something together to read rather than ramble on. My name again is Douglas Davis. I live at 305 Crestview Drive, Madison, 53716. I'm a resident of the Glendale neighborhood, and my property does back up to Woodland Park. I'm also the vice president of the Glendale Neighborhood Association, a part-time environmental educator at the Aldo Leopold Nature Center, and a volunteer who has worked for a long time in Woodland Park with land steward John Traver on projects at Woodland Park, excuse me, including prairie burns, removal of invasive species, and helping to connect an Eagle Scout whose project was to construct stairs that led into the park from Bildy Lane that has given both Monona and Madison residents better access into the park. But tonight I'm speaking to you on behalf of just myself, although I have experience with this neighborhood. This afternoon was the first time I heard about this proposal from both a neighbor and from members of the Glendale Neighborhood Association that had contacted a number of board members. Even though the Planning Commission has known about this for a few months and may have had adequate time to review the proposal, I feel like there needs to be given more time to several constituents who may not have known about this and have more concerns and would like to voice their opinions. As an example, I just printed out that 12-page document that the Planning Commission had on their website. Was just reading through it as you started the meeting tonight, and there were a lot of details to read through and digest. Just as an example, I wasn't aware the new business was going to build a 5-foot fence that would be next to Woodland Park and prevent access. Also that there was going to be strong lighting on the top of the building. Then it wasn't indicated how long that lighting would be on for. And I didn't see any comment from the Parks Commission regarding the impacts on Woodland Park. I saw comments from the police department and I think from utilities, but nothing from Parks Commission. So these are just a few of the details that I think many other constituents and neighbors would like to have time to review and consider before you pass this on to the full council. Just as one more example, I called John Traver this afternoon. I've worked with him a long time at the Woodland Park, the land steward. I know many of you are familiar with John. Longtime resident of Monona and a volunteer land steward for many years at Woodland Park. And this was the first time today that he had heard about this proposal. He was totally unaware of it. And I assume there are other important constituents like the new business owner of Diane Draperies. You are probably aware of this, who is renting the old candle shop next to this business. I don't know if that business owner is aware of this proposal, as well as many other constituents who may live next to Woodland Park or be residents adjacent to the proposed business. So I'm voicing my own personal opposition as an individual and community member, and hoping that the Plan Commission will postpone approval until more information is given to other constituents so they can express their informed opinions and possible concerns. So thank you for giving me the time to express my view.
Thank you.
The next we have Amy Scaife.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I guess I will. I'm Amy Scaife. I'm Doug's neighbor, actually. So, you know, my property also butts up against Woodland Park, and my concerns are very similar to his. I'm, you know, concerned of how putting in a used car lot will affect Woodland Park, you know, the aesthetics of that area right there. Like my kids, before I left, they said, you know, it's just not the vibe of the neighborhood, and I feel that's true, you know. The other thing I'm really concerned about is just the light pollution that would be coming from that property if it had lights on constantly. And finally, one of the major things I'd be concerned about is that the project that he was talking about, an Eagle Scout put in a walkway that leads you up to Woodland Park, and it's kind of like an informal traffic area that connects our neighborhood to Monona Drive. And then there's that stoplight right there. So like it's a good place for kids in the neighborhood to cut through the park, have a safe place to just cross the park right there. I'm just concerned that having, you know, the fence, the lot would impact that as well. So thanks for listening.
Thank you very much.
And we also have another who would like to register. Would you like to speak this evening?
No.
Okay. We have Neelam Kirkla. Thank you. Registering against the item, the zoning permit for 5734. Thank you.
Awesome. And then anyone online here to speak about this? Shelley?
Thank you for letting me speak and for letting others speak who were not aware of this until recently. I appreciate your time. I didn't write anything up like Doug did, so mine isn't going to sound as great, but I do have some concerns, and a lot of them have been expressed already by other people. But I live on Harrow Lane, which is about 5 or 6 blocks, depending on how you count them, from Monona Drive and from this location. And I read the comprehensive plan for Monona, and even though I don't live in Monona, I think that all towns and cities share that, and as far as safe housing, places that people can walk to for retail, food, entertainment, that kind of thing. And I think that this choice to put a used car lot there versus another kind of business that might be more consistent with the city plan would be an unfortunate one. I think that at least in our neighborhood, we have a busy street called Tompkins Drive, and it's been so busy that the city has put speed bumps on it. And I worry about increased traffic from people who are test driving cars coming into our neighborhood in these already busy streets. I worry about that for children, animals, any pedestrians, frankly. I feel like something like this, even though I support a small business owned by a family, their first business. I read what they said at the last meeting, and I admire that. but I just don't think this is the area for it. I think it belongs in a more industrial area. I think it's incompatible with the businesses around it. And I think we're flanked by a lot of industrial area. We've got Broadway, we've got Stoughton Road. We already have a used car lot at the intersection of Flom and Stoughton Road. And so it's right there, and then there are ones further out, but we're surrounded by quite a few of them already. And I just think that to take this coveted spot on Monona Drive in the town of Monona, next to this valuable park, would be a decision in the wrong direction. And I also am concerned about the bright lights. I heard from the minutes at the last meeting, or read in the minutes from the last meeting, that there was some talk about adding some lights that would be attached to the building and would sort of flash toward, either down toward the parking lot and maybe even above and beyond into the park. Because I know that car lots like increased lighting at night. They don't want offenders car shopping, as we call it, at the DA's office where I work. They don't want them doing that. So security cameras are, you see them all the time at used car lots. And I think that that kind of light pollution is the last thing we need next to a park that other people have described as a pretty precious area of land. And I think those were my only points. And again, I really appreciate your letting us speak. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else online?
I do see that we were joined by one other individual. I don't know if that was the applicant who most recently joined the Zoom call. I had sent a follow-up email. So.
Is the applicant online? Okay. Anyone else online interested in speaking? Jim?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm also a resident of Madison. I live next door to Shelley, as a matter of fact, and 35 years in the Glendale Neighborhood Association, past board member there. I don't think it can be, I think that the police concern with loading and unloading vehicles there probably can't be overstated. I just don't see how that's going to work in that location. There's, as Shelley mentioned, there's a used car lot on the corner of Flom and 51 currently, and I see them load and unload, and they have a frontage road there where they can pull down, and while it's not ideal, at least they're not on Flom Road. I don't know where you're going to park any kind of a car hauler to load and unload vehicles there. I also share Shelley's concern about test driving vehicles in the neighborhoods. I mean, we see it now with the other lots. There was another used car lot closer to Farm and Fleet that recently moved, but we saw pretty regular traffic from test drives in the neighborhood. And while most people are courteous, it still is an increase in traffic. And given the proximity to Henderson Elementary just down the street, and Senate and La Follette, the schools in the area, I'm just, like Shelley said, I'm just not sure that this is an appropriate use for that parcel. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Anyone else online? Looking at Thomas's iPhone. M. Brian H. All right. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing portion. Move on to consideration of action on request by Alana's Auto Sale for approval of a zoning permit for a new use at 5734 Monona Drive, case number 2020-2024. And we'll start with Chris.
Okay. First, I'd like to thank everybody for showing up. We don't get much audience here at Plan Commission and online, so for us to have this many people, it's nice. And I agree with all of you. My opinion hasn't changed. This isn't the best location for a used car lot. We allowed one on Femrite, and we've talked about there's potentially some areas along Broadway, and my understanding after last meeting was that they might investigate if there's some other better suited areas. So I was a little shocked that this came back. As far as you just heard about it, we don't know what's on the agenda as plan commissioners till either Thursday or Friday night. Staff gets together all the information, they deal with applicants, they deal with our consultants. We don't have a large internal staff like Madison. And by the time he has that all together, we get it usually Thursday or Friday night. We read over it on the weekend, so we learn about it then. So it's not unusual, but you could mention, I'm sure you noticed this, correct? And
That's correct, yes.
property owners within a certain area, and they also put a sign out front. We really liked what Madison did, so we enacted where you have to put the little thing out front, yellow board that shows that there's something applied for. I don't remember seeing it, but they're supposed to.
Yes, that was not put out this time, but it
No.
was for the pre-hearing. The letters were mailed, and the agenda was posted, I believe, on Wednesday last week as well.
And a couple more comments before I give up. Just to correct, they had agreed to not load and unload vehicles. I know we all go, meh, but they had put that in their materials that all vehicles would be driven here, they'd be repaired and just driven here. And when you mentioned pass it on to the city council, this is a little different than Madison. Plan Commission allows zoning permits. There is nothing after this unless, for example, they're denied and they want to appeal, then they can go to council. But other than that, the approval comes through Plan Commission. So it's really important that y'all come and talk and say what you think. I think you're all articulating what a lot of us feel, that this just isn't the place for a used car lot. I'm disappointed that the applicant didn't come to state their case or defend their position, but we can deal with what we have tonight.
Susan?
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said already, and I was also surprised to see it back. I thought we made it pretty clear last time that we didn't think this was a good location. They may have I was looking at my own comments, and the only reason I talked about the need for better landscaping was in the event, a lot of us hadn't spoken when I spoke, and I thought in the event it did get approved, they needed to understand that all that had to be done. It was not that doing that would be sufficient, and it just isn't. It remains an inappropriate use of that property, I think. And especially, a point that was made last time was the housing all that residential housing going on across the street on Owen Road as well. Just, I think having something that would be more of a service thing to the community that would be more appropriate. And I had a lot of concerns about it being next to the park, and you all have articulated those concerns very well. Certainly the lighting, the fence, the whole thing. And it's also, as far as the improvements on the property, whoever eventually goes in there needs to make a lot of improvements on that property. It's very run down. The fence needs to be repaired. A lot of other things need to happen there. And if this doesn't get approved and a different applicant comes, they'll have to do the same thing. But yeah, and I know that the applicants, I think Mr. Plowman did speak with them about possible alternatives, and they didn't really follow through. But
Thank you. I can address that. It was definitely the will of the commission that I connect with the applicants after the pre-hearing. Sort of looking to address some of the concerns. I think they, as evidenced by the application, focused on sort of the items on the site, the landscaping, the fencing, the lighting. I did share sort of the alternate sites that have been mentioned, some of the other locations in the city, as well as where other used car sales were located within Monona, for example. We had that conversation the same week that came through in mid to late July. They appreciated the call, but said, they wanted to proceed. They were having conversations with the landlord, pretty quickly after that, and subsequently wanted to reapply or put in for the formal consideration that's before us this evening. But I did have that conversation, excuse me, specifically about the use, but I think it was deemed a little more about sort of the building itself, and you can see the changes that were made with that.
yeah, I think that's seems like that may have been what happened. The applicant focused on all of our conversation about the appearance of the property more than the appropriateness, and the appropriateness is really the issue.
Thank you, Susan. Corinne?
Good evening. Yeah, my opinion hasn't changed from the pre-hearing either. I agree that this is not the right use for the site, and I won't take time reiterating what the other commissioners and what you all have said, but I don't think it's the appropriate use.
Thank you. Rob?
Thank you. I was not here for the pre-hearing conference, but I did watch the meeting online. And I tend to agree that this is not appropriate use for this this location, and for a couple of reasons. As stated in the staff report here, part of our comprehensive plan is to protect and enhance the character of surrounding neighborhood, and I don't think this use does that. Looking at the Monona Drive urban design guidelines, there's a couple different places where they refer to better defining Monona Drive as a main street, and I think it's widely agreed upon that that is our main street, and I don't think that's the kind of development in a high visibility space like this is what you want for your main street. And furthermore, I share the sentiment about Woodland Park. I see that park as our highest value natural space in our city limits. It's so much work has gone into that to have that restorative landscape, and it shows. It's amazing. It's my favorite spot in Monona, and it's a real gem. And I just think that adjacent use is not enhancing that. And with the restaurants next door, I just don't see it as symbiotic. We have a yoga studio with an after-school program who often uses that park space as well. And you just don't think of car lots and auto sales with children use and park use, and it's just not compatible in my opinion. So.
Thank you. John?
I learned something from this application. After the last meeting, I walked out and I told one of the commission members, I can't remember which one, that I'm not sure they heard us. And we talked about improving a number of things: landscaping, lighting, the fence. We talked about the safety of vehicles. And they went back, talked to the owner, and addressed every one of them. I don't think they clearly understood how strong we felt about the non-use. The one question I would have in their comments is the term of adding strong lights at the top of the building, because I would want to ask them what they meant by that, because that seems a little over the top, I'll say, which would concern me if I lived near the area. I think there are a lot of odd uses as you drive or walk or bike down Monona Drive. And I would find it interesting to see if a Taco Bell, which was the original building use, if they applied today, what the reaction would be. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Brandon?
I think my main concern about that parcel has historically been there's always been businesses that have come and gone. And so in my comments in the prior meeting, it was more out of a motivation of seeing an active business on that parcel, but hearing more from the community, the adjacent community, and how it would affect their experience of their own community. I would tend to agree with the balance of the commission that I would just really like to see another business come forward for that parcel. I'd just really like to see that be an active business in the community because it's in such a high visibility location. But given the impact that it would have on the community, I don't know that it's worth the trade-off for this particular use.
Thank you. And I would also express that, I believe that it does not, in my opinion, does not comport with our comprehensive plan. So that said, do we have a motion?
Well, what's your pleasure? We can take no action, we can table it, we can deny it. I mean.
Because we don't have the applicant.
So denying it, Doug, versus taking no action, what is the outcome?
So, as mentioned by Commissioner Holmberg, if there was a denial this evening, the applicant would have the right to appeal that to City Council, and again, it would be viewed sort of in the same within the same framework as by the City Council. The other option is that it be tabled, and if the applicant so chooses, they could return. It would give, as was mentioned, the opportunity for this to come forward. Most likely at least a month out from now, not 2 weeks, but most likely a month, if not a little bit more. So they could potentially return and sort of seek the action of the commission at that point in person if they so choose.
Would a different address be a new application?
I'm sorry?
Would a different location be a new application?
Yes, absolutely.
So I would look for a denial.
Yeah, I was just going to say since.
Can I ask a
From what
question?
Mr. Chapman said, that they didn't really understand the will of the commission last time, perhaps that would be best.
Could I ask a question? If the applicant was here and it was denied, would they still have the opportunity to go to city council?
Yes.
Okay.
That doesn't
That doesn't change, okay?
Correct.
Thank you.
So I would look for a motion to deny.
Move to deny.
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in, oh, there.
Could I, just for the action, could I have from the motion maker and potentially the second, just some reasoning behind the denial?
I would talk about the comprehensive plan. too.
I didn't on purpose, because there are so many reasons, and once we put down reasons, then we've limited ourselves to all the other ones that are out there and been spoken about, and I don't think we need to write down 20, 30 reasons. The council, if it is brought back, the council can see a tape of our meeting and the appearances and go from there. So I think beyond anything, that the applicant doesn't even come to show up tonight is big enough reason with all outcry to me to deny it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the
Aye.
denial?
Aye.
Aye. And motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Yeah, thanks for coming. We don't usually get an audience.
Especially from Madison.
Yes. One of these days we could talk about the, one of these days we could talk about that gate on Cold Spring. No, just kidding.
The tennis court? Talking about the tennis court?
No, the gate, so no one can travel. All right. All right, 7, new business. We have none. And 8, reports of staff.
Thank you. Busy few meetings coming up. Expecting a couple zoning permits and a couple sign requests at the meeting on September 23rd, as well as the Walter Wayne project, 5105 Monona Drive,
Which one's
the
that?
vacant parcel, former Jiffy Lube
Okay,
site.
Jiffy Lube.
That one, they're looking to return for consideration on that proposal at the first meeting in October, which will be October 14th.
Have they gotten through with CDA?
They are discussing, a term sheet is in the works at this point, has been extended to them, and so there's interest from CDA. on
Okay, as I say, it doesn't pay to keep coming back if they can't work it out with CDA.
Absolutely, no, there's understanding with the CDA that there's interest on that project, and sort of working with both the finance side as well as the development team. And staff had a meeting today with staff from Dane County, specifically discussing the mapping of racial covenants. The impact on Monona is there are some, I believe this is fairly well known, that within the Frostwoods district, within the Frostwoods neighborhood. So discussing, they have this for the county, for different areas of the city. Really, they're looking for sort of involvement with municipalities, opportunities to look at education and kind of next steps with that. But very early, very preliminary at this point. But I just wanted to share that information. I think between the Landmarks Commission, potentially Plan Commission, City Council, I think there's interest in that. Some opportunity for education there. What that means, opportunities to potentially remove that, to work on that, and I think it'll be an interesting. It's a very early stage of the project, but just wanted to share that conversation as well.
Question that. Existing deed restrictions that are however old, what authority do we have to impact them?
From a Plan Commission perspective, it would be very little. These would most likely be individual. It would be property owner led, that effort. So most likely, sort of as far as Plan Commission is concerned, it would probably be informational presentation, but nothing.
Yeah,
Yes.
don't get me wrong, I think it's important and it's going forward. Like if we get a new development in that has deed restrictions, we can ask to review those. And look at them, and if we find something that just, no way, that doesn't hold, we can talk about it. But I'm just thinking, like when you mentioned Frostwoods, we all mentioned Frostwoods. I don't think we have any ability or authority to go back there.
No, I think it would be more of, for this body, absolutely
And
information.
looking forward.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
That's it from staff.
That's it?
Yes.
Any questions of staff before we? No? Seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.